Welcome to the OLV Daily Reflection for Sunday, January 17th. Today's first reading for the Sunday Mass comes to us from the third chapter of the first book of the prophet Samuel. It reads, Samuel was sleeping in the temple of the Lord where the ark of God was. The Lord called to Samuel, who answered, Here I am. Samuel ran to Eli and said, Here I am, you called me. I did not call you, Eli said, Go back to sleep. So he went back to sleep. Again the Lord called Samuel, who rose and went to Eli. Here I am, he said, You called me. But Eli answered, I did not call you, my son. Go back to sleep. At that time Samuel was not familiar with the Lord, because the Lord had not yet revealed anything to him as of yet. The Lord called Samuel again for the third time. Getting up and going to Eli, he said, Here I am, you called me. Then Eli understood that the Lord was calling the youth. So he said to Samuel, Go to sleep, and if you are called, reply, Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. When Samuel went to sleep in his place, the Lord came and revealed his presence, calling out as before, Samuel, Samuel. Samuel answered, Speak, for your servant is listening. Samuel grew up, and the Lord was with him, not permitting any word of his to be without effect. This situation had to be confusing for Samuel, especially when you are being told to go back to bed after you think that someone has woken you up from sleep. However, Samuel eventually was able to understand what was happening to him. And as today's reading ended, we know that the Lord's calling had a special effect upon Samuel's life. What struck me about this passage today was not Samuel, but actually was the situation of Eli. At this point in this reading, Eli was an old man who had poor vision. But what was probably affecting him more than his health and age was the problems in his family. His two sons, who also served as priests like Eli at the Lord's temple at Shiloh, were forsaking their duties as priests. If you read the second chapter of the first book of Samuel, their misdeeds are described. Eli tried to get them to change their ways, but they refused. As a result of his two sons' continued actions of forsaking their duties as priests and sinning before the Lord, it was foretold to Eli he would lose both of his sons on the same day. So a sense of dread had to be following him around in his life, and there is no doubt that the situation with his family had to weigh heavy on his heart. Therefore, we can be sympathetic to Eli for struggling to understand that the Lord was calling out to Samuel because he had a lot going on in his life and truly probably did not appreciate the situation as he might have in different circumstances. So the experience of Eli is one that reminds us that the Lord continues to work in the lives of others. We may not understand how the Lord is working in people's lives. And furthermore, sometimes it's unclear how the Lord's working in our lives. But returning to the example of Samuel, if all of us imitate his response to God's call, Speak, Lord, your servant is listening, we know that the Lord will eventually speak and guide us. So no matter what we're facing in our lives, whether we're old or young, whether we have a lot on our plate or very little, the example of Samuel truly is one that should guide us and support us. But again, we know that God's doing this for all people. So this is how each of us should navigate this world and truly try to place our trust in the Lord in everything we do. And furthermore, like Eli, we may not always get what we want, but listening to God's call in our lives is better than not listening at all. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us.